people call me a fighter, but I actually don't call myself a fighter. I'm a martial artist. I
Mm.
hate fighting. I used
Yep.
to think karate sucked. Oh.
My name is Chris Hansen from Karate Unity. We have a special guest here, Jeff Chan, another fellow Canadian. Thank you, Jeff, for coming. I really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know who you are, if you could kindly introduce yourself and where to find you.
First of all, thank you for having me. My name is Jeff Chan, and you can find me with the simple name MMA Shredded on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
I noticed you online. You're a strong, athletic, genuine presence. Someone who's constantly improving, learning from all kinds of sources and giving back your knowledge to the world. I totally, support what you're doing, as I feel, it's an inspiration to all kinds of martial artists, both traditional and combat sport players. So, that's what brought me to you. And what inspired you to start this channel?
Okay, so it all started with, have you heard of Sean Fagan?
Yes, Sean
The
Fagan,
Muay Thai?
the Muay Thai guy. Yeah, I watch
Okay.
his stuff. I love his stuff. I trained his stuff last week.
Okay, well, there you go. He's a great guy. And back in 2016, I had a friend who follows him invite me to attend his first training camp in Thailand.
Yes.
So I went to Thailand for a month and I hung out with him for the full month, trained with him every day. And, obviously after training, we'd go eat and hang out and chat. And I got to know him and I was very inspired by what he did. He was making a living off of just Muay Thai, which is, something fairly new at the time, or still, yeah. And he inspired me to do it as well. He's like, well, you should do it too, but in MMA, since you have the MMA background. And at the time, I was focused on getting into law enforcement. Like I spent 8 to 10 years trying to get in law enforcement, and I was always been in that field. And the idea of
police work, or
yeah.
Okay.
So the idea of getting into YouTube was a shocker. Like I never thought I would ever do it. So I started the channel just as a hobby, as a way to journalize my martial arts journey.
Yes.
So at first, I really put only half of my heart into it. Like I was filming in my condo gym with terrible background, just didn't put much effort into it. And I was just trying to pursue law enforcement. But anyways, Sean is one who got me all started into it. And I actually filmed my first video with his camera. And actually, if you look way back in my first few videos, Sean is in the videos.
Oh, I got to look at that. You want to do that now. Oh, cool, man. I've developed an eye now for editing because I'm always looking for different ways to, splash things on my screen and this and that. So I imagine you do all your editing, or do you have someone to do it for you?
I do all my editing, but I'll have my partner who helps me pick the right titles, the modern titles and, simplicity. I remember when I first started editing, I would use red, white, and blue, and it just looked very amateur. And now it's looking a lot more professional because my partner helps me with the editing, at least in terms of picking the titles.
Definitely. I love your stuff, man. It's simple. It's eye catchy. And if you can go back in your thinking, what's one of the most favorite videos that you had fun shooting, filming, and something that you really enjoyed?
I would say my first video that I ever made was one of my most fun videos, but at the same time, I look back and it's kind of cringy when I look back at it. But it was my first video was me in Toronto when I used to live in Toronto. I wanted to start with a viral video. So
Right.
I went on the streets and I kind of approached random people on the street to try to punch me with boxing gloves.
Seriously?
And I would use the long guard to try to defend.
Oh,
And that was my first video. So it was fun filming that. Looking back, it was kind of immature, asking people randomly on the street, but it was fun doing that. That was one of my most memorable videos. I love filming all my sparring sessions, and sparring is just, it's become my way of making content. I used to kind of think I'm gonna do 4 ways to throw a jab or 5. I used to kind of plan out that way, but now I literally just film my sparring and I analyze my sparring and see what can be done better and what I did well. And because I find a lot of techniques I kind of do instinctually, kind of naturally when we're in that high intensity pace.
Yes.
Obviously, some is from learning, or most of it's from learning, but a lot is also from just me sparring and fighting or whatever it is. And if I catch myself doing a specific combo or technique multiple times, then I'll kind of collect that footage and then try to repeat it again. And then I'll make a tutorial after I've already gotten the sparring.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you kind of like go backwards kind of thing, if you want to look at it that way. That's cool, man. One of my really close friends and fight coaches too, I can't mention his name because he's a principal in the school system and he doesn't want to be on social media. And it's so sad because and he's gonna see this part because I'm gonna keep it edited on here. He doesn't like to be named and stuff. And I'm telling you, he's such a talented martial artist. And he basically said, he gives me a lot of tips on how to film and just ideas. And he's, to your point, he said, he goes, a lot of you karate guys just film clean techniques, edited all nice and pretty and stuff. He goes, that doesn't really lend itself to authenticity. He goes, what you got to do is you got to keep it authentic. So he says, to keep it authentic, you got to see all the screw ups. You got to see all the messiness. And then he says, from there, you can make content, from that, and you can add things and B-roll and this and that. And I'm assuming that's your process, right?
Yeah, I have a mixture of it. So I like to show, I've made videos where it's pure sparring. And then I think the best blend is I'll demonstrate it the perfect way with no resistance. I'll just show it 2 times or 3 times of the perfect way, and then followed by my actual sparring footage of me landing it, followed by my failed attempts. I think that's the best way to see it, because I think a lot of people, they see the technique and they think they should be able to land it the first time, but that's completely opposite. Like I fail probably 50 times before I landed like 2-3 times, right? And it also has to do with who you're sparring, right? There's only so many people that show up to your sparring class, and sometimes there's pros, sometimes there's amateurs, sometimes there's complete beginners, and you do what you can, right? So I like to show footage of me landing it with good guys, not so good guys, someone, etc.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. Do you coach as well?
Yes.
Is that part of your career?
Yeah, I've actually, in the most recent year, I've been focusing a lot on coaching.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
If I'll keep an eye on your channel. If you ever have a seminar coming up, I'd love to come and visit you and bring some of my guys down.
That'd be amazing.
I always love to talk about somebody's journey, in terms of, all the different jobs that they've done. Like it kind of shows the aspirations of somebody. So the little that I know of you, I've done some research. So you've been in law enforcement. If you're comfortable with it, I wouldn't mind knowing, what got you into that, what type of law enforcement, and then what got you out of that, and how you got into full-time fighting and all this kind of stuff. So you can share that if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I started training in 2007, and I joined just as a recreational student. Like I just trained just for fun, and I started competing because my coach just pushed me towards it. And I never had ever had plans to be a professional fighter. It was always just a side thing. My main goal at this specific time was business, and it was a goal because I just didn't know what to do. And I went to university for 2 years in business and realized I was a complete business dropout. And I dropped out of business, accounting specifically. I just did not like it, and I kind of went that path because my sister was in finance and just in a business in general. And when I decided to drop out of business, I had no idea what else I wanted to do. The only thing I really could think of was policing, because when you're at the age when you're like 18, 19 years old, you're thinking like, hey, policing would be a cool job. Number one is I like helping people, and policing helps people. And 2, it's a career where it's supposed to be adventurous, but it's actually not. It's a career that requires physical attributes, requires combat skills, which is something that I was good at. I was never a book smart person. So with that kind of personality, in fact, a lot of people with that type of personality go into the military, they go into policing. Right. So that's what I thought I wanted to do. And I still did want to go into that. And since 2000, let's see, I forgot what year, but when I was 18, 19, that's when I dropped out of business and went into law enforcement, or actually went to university, criminology, police foundations, and tried to get into policing. And during my studies, I started competing more and more. And then one day my coach kind of just said like, hey, you should turn professional. And at that time I was still, I think it was 2012. I was still a kid. He was like, you should turn pro in MMA since you have a pretty successful amateur record. And I was like, why not? I think it would be cool to be a professional fighter. You know what I mean?
Who told you this? Who told you this again? This was your coach?
My coach pushed me towards going pro in MMA. And in my head, I had no plans to actually be a professional fighter, but in my head, I'm like, hey, it would be cool to be called a professional fighter, right? So I was like, yeah, why not? And why not fight and get paid for it? Why fight amateur and pay to fight? Why not just pay to get paid now? So that was my little entry into professional fighting. It's not that I wanted to be a professional fighter. And so then I continued pursuing law enforcement. And I thought by becoming a professional fighter, it would actually add to my resume to becoming a police officer.
Yep.
So that's why I fought on the side and continued training. Also because I love training.
Yes.
So anyways, to summarize the story, I moved to Toronto for more law enforcement opportunities.
Oh, where in Toronto, if you don't mind asking?
I lived in Toronto. I moved to Toronto. I lived in North York.
North York. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I applied to like every police service and just wasn't getting hired.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't getting hired, I was working like security Brinks.
Yes.
I worked at security hospital. And while I was struggling to get into policing, I fought on the side and did coaching and teaching at the gym and stuff. And then eventually I got into as a special constable in Waterloo.
Oh, okay.
So you're not an actual police officer. You're considered a police officer, but you don't carry a gun or anything. It's a university special constable.
Oh, university cops, those security guys.
Yes. So I was almost there, but anyways, I got hired for about 2 months, and something crazy happened in my life.
Oh,
like not sure I want to share it yet, but it's something crazy that happened in my life, and it literally turned my life upside down.
Wow.
I lost my job. I had to move back to Ottawa, and my life was upside down. Like I went through depression. Like something really crazy happened.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And but you know what? Now that everything has passed, I'm actually glad it happened because it put me on the path towards doing what I'm doing now.
For a reason, man.
Yep. Yeah, I truly believe that. So essentially, lost my job, lost a lot, and I can never really get back into law enforcement anymore, nor do I want to. And I was stuck at home, essentially going through my depression or whatever. And the only thing I had left in terms of work-wise was my YouTube channel, and it had grown just a bit at that time. And because I had nothing really there for me, I just focused on the channel. And when I started putting 100% effort into my channel, that's when it started seeing a lot of results. Whereas if I continued being a special constable, I think I would have continued putting only half effort or even less than half effort into the channel. And I don't think it would have grown. But I was kind of forced to put everything into my channel. And that's when I started seeing results. And I would say about a year and a half or 2 years later, I started to be able to monetize it. And then now I do it full time.
Excellent. You're a true warrior, man. You know, a warrior to me, like, is somebody, you know, that just keeps getting up, keeps moving forward, you know, and that's, you clearly exemplify that. I empathize, and I totally understand, you know, what you went through. I don't know exactly what you went through, and you don't have to tell me, but I went through depression too, and had to move out and stayed in different places and things like that just to clear my mind, and all kinds of changes happened in my body and my mind. And it was a rough time, man. I'd say it took me about close to 2 years to get over all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, would you say, you know, without getting into details, like we're not going to, we'll just talk about the after effects. Would you say that martial arts, because of martial arts and who you are as a fighter and as a trainer and things like that, that definitely helped you overcome your problem?
100%.
You know?
Martial arts has given me so much, more than a career. It's given me fitness, self-defense, confidence. I met my fiance through training as well.
Oh,
Just
okay.
everything. Martial arts has literally given me everything.
Yeah, man. Oh, I feel that. I feel that. It's my life. Everything I do is martial art related. Everything, you know,
That's
and
awesome.
I embrace all. But it's not about me today. It's about you. So, yeah. So, I'd like for you to take us through a day in the life of Jeff Chen now as a martial artist, as a fiance, as a son. You know, what's your day look like typically when you wake up in the
Um,
morning?
so it depends really on what time period. I would say, like, at first I'll quickly explain when I am in fight camp.
Yep.
So when I was in fight camp, I moved to Tristar and or Montreal at least, and train at Tristar full time. And I would wake up and train twice a day, every day, and wasn't the fight camp is not very fun.
Mm,
It's brutal work, and
yeah.
a lot of people call me a fighter or assume I'm a fighter, but I actually don't call myself a fighter. I'm a martial artist. I
Mm,
hate fighting. I literally
mm.
do not like fighting. I love the training. I love the hard training, but I do not like fighting. And
Really?
I was, yeah, fighting is very stressful. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Every time I'm training for camp, I'm thinking in my head like, why did I sign up for this? And then the cycle goes on. But anyways, you asked me have I gone into coaching? Well, in the last year, I've actually been getting into coaching, and I've been kind of much more relieved because when I am in fight camp, or if I know I have a fight coming up, I'm so focused on training and being in shape. Whereas right now, I'm actually like really enjoying life. I'm coaching. I'm diversifying my training. I've been cycling. I've been lifting more weights. I've been just training to have fun and not kind of just beating up my body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so right now, if my schedule is I wake up, I usually first thing in the morning is I answer emails and I respond to comments. Then I start editing, and then I'll have my first training session around 1 or 2.
Mhm.
Usually a friend comes over, or I'll go to the gym to train, and then come back, shower, eat, and then I'll have someone else come over and I'll film. So I try to film probably 5, 6 days a week.
Oh,
So
wow.
my training now is a blend of filming and training. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when you're filming, I'm repping techniques, and then I'll do my filming for my sparring.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tonight I'm going to be going to sparring. At 8 o'clock, and I'm lucky that my fiance will come and help me film with the gimbal. So it's like
Yeah.
all
Yeah. Gimbals are great.
cinematic, everything,
Yeah.
and that's the majority of my content, right? Like I film my sparring, and then I'm really excited to wake up the next morning to watch my videos, whether it's looking for fun exchanges that I can make content with, or it's finding new techniques that I happen to have used and making another tutorial of it. And it's kind of just a never ending cycle.
I had a question for you. I film when I'm training too, but I find I don't do it as often enough. So my time management's a bit off. So what I mean by that is sometimes when I'm training with my guys and this and that, you know, if there's something cool that comes up, I go, okay, let's set up the tripod, this and that, and we go. But I find that my when I train and film, my training ends up being too long. You know what I mean? Like so like how do you manage your training and filming to keep it efficient? Like I'm sure you're used to all that now, doing it all together, right?
So sometimes I will film with my tripod. Well, sorry, if I'm at my home gym, it's nowhere near as big as yours, but it's just for me, it's just mats. If I'm filming at home, I'll set up the tripod, and if I'm going to roll or spar, I'll always film it. And usually when we spar, it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes. After the round's over, I shut it off, turn it off, take a break, drink water. Oh, you want to go again? Okay, turn the camera on. So I just, for the majority of the times, I film my sparring and rolling. When it comes to tutorials, that is something that I'll actually brainstorm, or
Yes.
I'll look through my footage first and be like, oh, I landed the jab 4 times in 4 different ways. In the next sparring session, I'm going to try to specifically do that so I can collect more footage, not just one time I landed. And then I'll make an actual tutorial where I'll plan it out. Like First on the list, jab the glove, then jab the face. 2, hook, then jab the face, and then I'll actually plan out the tutorial. But in terms of
you write it out, right? You write it out.
Yeah, I have a whole notebook
Nice.
of just ideas that I'm waiting to bang out.
Yeah. I researched when I got into this about 2 years ago. I researched on YouTubers and things like that, and that's part of the process. It's kind of like acting. You have to have some sort of a rough script.
Yes, definitely, especially when you want to speak in front of the camera, because
it's a bit nerve-wracking.
if you don't, you have to kind of memorize it, because if you don't memorize it, then you're going to think, oh, am I missing something? And then you're going to freeze on the camera, and then you're going to have to restart it.
Talk about your martial arts background and training. What made you get into martial arts in general? And if you can survey the styles that you've touched on, go ahead.
So I don't have any special stories on how I signed up. Literally, I had one of my best friends brought me in to train. He was already training Muay Thai, and he brought me into the gym. And then
in Ottawa,
yeah,
started
in Ottawa. Yeah. The gym was called the Ottawa Academy of Martial Arts. I started there in 2007, and then I kind of just never stopped. I just enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
That's literally an MMA gym.
Oh, sorry. I started with, I actually started with jiu-jitsu as my first ever class. I like the idea of a gi, of a kimono.
Yeah.
I had my first class, and I remember I was stuck in bottom out for the full 5 minutes with the individual with a hairy chest, and he wasn't very nice about it. And he was very sweaty, and he kind of smothered me all 5 minutes. Like, I don't know if he was trying to teach me a lesson or I was like spazzing out too much. He kept me there the whole time, smothered his hairy chest on my face the whole round. And I'm like, maybe jiu-jitsu is not for me. And I switched to Muay Thai the next day.
Yeah.
And then I trained Muay Thai for about 4 years and before I started training jiu-jitsu again. And I only started training jiu-jitsu was because my coach was like, you should get into MMA. So Muay Thai, then jiu-jitsu with wrestling.
Or more so hairy chest, Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Oh man, I know the feeling. Would you say Muay Thai is your jam? That's your comfort area?
I started with Muay Thai, and I used to play a very traditional Muay Thai style, like super high guard, all the way on the back foot and light on the lead foot. But actually now, if you watch my sparring or even my fights, people make the assumption that I have a karate background. And it's funny because when I first started Muay Thai, and obviously, it's good to note that I was very young and very young-minded, and I used to think karate sucked. I used to make fun of karate. I used to make fun of taekwondo. Right. I used to think it's all patterns and it just wasn't effective.
Right.
But as I got older or more experienced, and as I got into MMA, I have now adapted a very big part of karate, even though I never really learned karate like I never learned it from a professional or anything. I kind of just watch karate fighters and kind of learn on my own. I kind of like the hands low. I like the Y stance, kind of hopping on my 2 feet, bouncing.
Yeah,
and I love the footwork. I love the footwork. I love the high kicks. I love the blitz cross jab. I used to hate it. Now I love karate, and I actually want to learn karate. And I think I have a blend, and I would say I have a blend of Muay Thai and karate. I like to use the Muay Thai weapons, but I like the karate defense and footwork. And I like the karate style snap high kicks. So as a Muay Thai student, you're always taught to kick through the target. For the high kicks, body kicks, low kicks, you kick through and swing all the way through.
Yeah.
And I've never developed that flexibility to snap that high kick and keep it up there. So now I've really been trying to work on my flexibility and work on those angle cuts where like you step off to the side and you just snap the high kick. It's so fast and effective. I still don't have the flexibility. It's so tough. Like I wish I trained karate when I was younger so I'd have that flexibility, but it's just so hard when you're older and try to develop that flexibility now.
Yeah, it diminishes. I used to be able to do the splits. I'm 52 now, but I'm about like maybe 75%. I can do it.
That's
not bad.
Still awesome.
I need to warm up though, like to get there. But no, I want to key in on what you just said. You just touched a very important note for me, and that is cross training, right? And traditional martial arts. Like it's funny, like how you said, you thought karate sucked and taekwondo sucked, and it's this seems to be the how can I say without knowing, without trying, without putting it in, ingesting, digesting, putting it in your fight game and sparring, and actually, putting aside all these prejudice on martial arts. Like if you put all that aside and actually move and try to see what each style has to offer, I think, that's the only way you can grow, right? Like if you like karate for those reasons you said, I strongly recommend you to pair up with a Savatur, French kickboxing. Yeah. Okay. Have you tried that out?
I've heard of it, but I never tried it.
Oh, brother. If you like footwork in and out, and if you like to I know, I'm not going to make an assumption here. I'm going to make a definite statement. You will love Savat. I'll tell you why. Yeah. Because of the videos that you make stuff like, there's one video that I really loved is how you hit on the outside and you come on the inside. Like you were working that jab. There was a jab video where you go pop, pop, and you're coming on the inside. Yeah. Bro, Savat is all that. It's all about.
Oh, really?
So like, especially the hands, like Savat will come down and then change directions. It'll parry and really? Hit, and there's all kinds of different rhythms and timings that it's like fine wine to your striking, right? And then with the footwork, saboteurs they bounce on their toes, but they so as you can see, like the Savat athletes are very lean because they're continuously burning calories, right? But they're tactically working angles, and they're always trying to. So they'll hit and move at the same time. They'll angle off, zone out, and kick you. They'll simultaneously throw a shot and throw an oblique kick to your bottom. And so they're working you high, low, left, right, and it's crazy, man. Yeah. So cross training. What's your thoughts on that? Looking at different arts, different training methodologies, and bringing it back into your game. What's your thoughts on all that?
I guess back to what I was saying before was I used to think karate, taekwondo, other martial arts weren't effective. And I thought it was MMA is only for Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu and wrestling. That's all. But now I think every martial arts is effective. It just depends on the specific individual. I think every art it's known right now because it's effective. It just really depends on how much time you put into it. I do believe, though, that someone who has trained Muay Thai or say wrestling for a year is more effective than someone who has trained, say, Kung Fu for a year. Yeah. I believe that Kung Fu or more traditional martial arts, even karate, it requires more skill. And I hope this doesn't offend any martial artists, but I feel like you need to put in more time because it's more advanced. It's a lot of snappy high kicks, spinning back kicks, a lot of advanced technique. But once you put the time in, then you're really good. Whereas if you only put a bit of the time in, it's not as effective as, say, boxing, because boxing, you literally just need to know a jab, cross hook, and it's already effective, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Boxing, it's like you keep your hands up and it's very basic. Like someone throws a punch at you, you shell up or you parry. Whereas karate, it requires a lot more distance management, eyes, footwork. So I only started to fight with my hands down when I became more experienced because I was able to manage that distance out. Now I can fight with my hands down because I can manage the distance. But as a beginner, if I tried to do that, I would get popped in the face. And that's a huge topic. A lot of people are like, that guy's going to he's going to get knocked out because his hands are down. Well, no, not if you got the eyes like Israel Adesanya. Fight with your hands down, you still won't get hit. But of course, if you fight with your hands down and you've only been training for a year or two, of course you're going to get knocked out.
Yeah. And footwork, correct me if I'm wrong, footwork and head movement and body movement plays a huge part of that. Like, I mean, you can get away with a lot of that fighting down low. I mean, you could probably list out, I'm just thinking at the top of my head, like, I'm old school, man. I'm older than you. So I'm thinking of older fighters. Roy Jones Jr. Do you remember him?
Yep.
Always fighting down like this. You know what I mean? But he, like you said, to your point, I mean, distance management, man, and he works his head in Floyd Mayweather, right?
There's tons of fighters.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor, Israel Adesanya,
Yeah.
Robert Whitaker,
Yeah.
just so many,
Yeah.
so many.
It's a skill, man. It's a skill. But no, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's to to touch on traditional martial arts. Like I'm an advocate for it. I mean, that's all I knew growing up, and now I'm exposed to all the martial arts. Now, I honestly, in my camps, in my association, in my group of friends and stuff, like they're not just karate guys. They're boxers, Muay Thai guys, Savat players, Krav Maga, you name it, right? And I find
Wow.
I learned so much just from all these different players. The problem is though, it's not just. I agree with you. There's skill, but there's skill even in boxing. There's skill in combat sport. But my thing is in the modern martial art world now, the combat sport world, the efficiency plays a role, and it's efficiency based on need. I mean, you guys need to be able to develop quick responses and shell up. Everything has to be shortcutted. Why? Because of the nature of the game, right?
Yeah.
And so, you can produce a fighter in weeks, like, at least conditioned, right? But
Yes.
in the traditional martial art world, it's a lot of it has to do with culture. It's so like it's kind of like a coffee percolator. It's a slow trickle effect, right? Like the masters kind of keep you at bay, and they just give you a little bit at a time every year, just to keep you hooked, right? And keep you loyal, right? So to me, that type of training method, and I know this will piss off a lot of people, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It's outdated now. I mean, you need to, like the way I teach now my students, and I'd like to know how you teach, how you coach too. That's one of my questions. I teach to what they need, so and their skill level. If I see that they can pick up stuff fast, I'm gonna give it to them fast.
For sure.
Right.
I totally agree. That's actually this is a topic for those who want to start their own YouTube channel, because I'd like been asked many times, like, so obviously I produce free content, but I also sell programs, and a lot of people ask like, oh, how do you give free content but still sell courses and stuff, and like, how do you not give away all your secrets? And well, the truth is I don't give away, or I do give away all my secrets, and I don't hold back, because that shows that I'm generous and genuine. And when you're first starting out, you're probably thinking like, oh, how do I make content for the rest of my life, or for a long period of time without running out of ideas? But as you get into the groove of things, just there's so many, never ending. There's always going to be new things. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's creativity, right? Like, wouldn't you say it's the way you've probably developed a very creative way of kind of looking at things, so you never run out of ideas, right?
Yeah, and you're also learning. And if you hold back, like I know a guy who was asking me like, oh, I want to start my own YouTube channel, but I'm not going to teach them my best things and this and that. But if you don't teach your best things or good stuff, it's like, why follow you if other people are going to do that, but not you? You know what I mean? So I'm all about giving and just giving the information. And when students want to learn more, I'll show them the advanced stuff, but I'll also emphasize like, hey, obviously you're just starting out. I can show you these techniques, no problem. You can even record it, but I wouldn't recommend practicing those until you get the basics down and really drill it over and over and over and over again until you get it instinctual. Then move on to the more advanced techniques.
What's your daily training routine look like? Your martial art training, your strength and conditioning. What's that look like?
So now that I don't have a fight planned in the near future, I'm, like I was telling you, I was diversifying my training. I'm much more relaxed right now. I'm lifting about 3-4 times a week.
Nice. You look great.
Thank you.
What's your weight now? What do you?
I'm probably 155 right now.
Oh,
I
nice.
was 150, and I've gained about 5 pounds since.
Yeah.
I mean, in the morning, I'm probably like 153. It kind of varies. I've been lifting 3-4 times a week now. I've been cycling once a week, and I've been training jujitsu about 3-4 times a week, and then sparring about once a week. I used to spar a lot more, but now I'm not concerned, but I'm making sure that I do flow sparring, techno sparring, kind of saving the brain. I've taken a lot of hits, and like I'm probably nowhere near compared to like other fighters, but yeah, I think I've taken a lot of hits to the head, and it's good to kind of conserve the brain and work on
Of
flow
course.
sparring, technical sparring, and more technical training. And when you're in fight camp, it's like you're training hard every day, and your
Yeah.
body you don't want to train anymore. You're like unmotivated. But now I'm kind of doing more technical training, maybe hard training once or twice a week, and then the rest is like 75, 80% type training, and that keeps me motivated and happy. Whereas when you
Yeah.
train hard every day, it honestly it drains you, and you kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. 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 It wears you out for sure. Leads me to my next question. The aging martial artist and
Mhm.
choice of training partners. Like for me, real quick, I'm 52. I can't bang anymore. I've got a lot of tendonitis issues and things like that. So, I pick and choose my training partners. So I just wanted you to touch on, you mentioned earlier, you got friends coming over training with you and you go there and this and that. How do you pick your training partners? How do you take care of yourself for the long game? And a part of that question too is the advice for the aging martial artist.
Okay. When I'm training in my home gym
Yep.
or gyms that I am very close with, I pick my training partners. Like
Yep.
I'll be very honest. And when I say I pick my training partners, I mean I pick my training partners in terms of sparring, and I pick my training partners who hold pads for me. If someone can't hold pads for me, they're not. I'm not going to hit pads, just because people who can't hold pads can lead to injuries and
Yeah.
bad habits. Um, I usually have a person that knows how to hold pads that we kind of partner with all the time. In terms of sparring, I also go to the specific gyms and sparring classes where I have the right training partners. And these type of training partners are very technical, they're explosive, they're intense, but controlled. So I don't know if you've seen a guy named Fred Stonehouse on my channel or Instagram
Mm-mm.
page,
No.
but he's one of my coaches and teammates. And when we spar, we go fast, we go intense, but we pull our punches,
Yeah.
pull the head kicks. Like I can count like off the top of my head, like 5 times where he threw a high kick and he literally comes like an inch away, and just so much control and so much trust. And I have the best flow sparring and intense sparring with him. And uh, recommendation for aging martial arts is, yeah, find those type of partners, because flow sparring or finding a partner that can flow spar with you, that's the best way to improve. When you're in fight camp, I understand it's necessary to spar hard to prepare for sparring or to prepare for a fight, but that's not how you get better. When you hit hard, spar hard, not only are you losing brain cells, you're building the cardio, but you're not developing skill. In my opinion, to develop skill, you want to be doing flowing sparring, and you want to have that confidence to try out new things without being worried about getting your head knocked off. And if you're worried about your head getting knocked off, you're not going to try new things, and you're not going to develop that skill. So having the right sparring partners is the key thing for me. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man, that's great. It's an eventuality, right? It's like one of those things that needs to happen in time. Because it's like the way I see it is that, I'm speaking to the choir here. You've got way more experience in this than me, but you know how it is. You match up with somebody that you don't really know, and then they're trying to feel you out and this and that, and you'll know right away, whether someone just is out to just dominate or someone wants to help you, right? Like for me, like
100%.
I got to go to work the next day. I got a daughter. I got a wife. I got, I need to be safe. And so everybody in my group, we were pretty much in the same page, right? Where we want to help each other. So I love the idea of what you said. Flow sparring, that's where it's at, man. That's where it's at. That's how you grow. You got to give and take, right? But
Yeah, and
go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, when I obviously travel to different cities and kind of do my training traveling, that's where it can be entertaining because I'm sparring with new people, but then new people that I'm sparring with who don't know who I am, they see a camera, and that's sometimes where it escalates and goes
Yeah.
all wrong. But
Yeah. They get excited.
yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like you've probably seen this before. It's the sensei or coach syndrome. So like you're moving around, and then your coach is walking around, or your sensei's there and you just go crazy, right? You want to impress, right? You want to show off a little bit. Self-defense. Emmett, you've done combat sports for a long time. And I know you've talked about it in your videos too, about self-defense. I've got a very biased, positive outlook. I think as long as you're training athletically, you're developing, when you train athletically and you're sparring often, you're training functionally and stuff. I think as a byproduct, okay, this is my view. I want to know your view, but the byproduct is you're fit, you're healthy. You've determined because of your activity, you've got that determination, that grit, right? Mm-hmm. And all your senses are honed in. So your situational awareness is already programmed into your activity, right? Mm-hmm. And so the argument is, if I were to transplant, or you were to transplant a combat sport player into a self-defense type of environment, I think the transition is going to be smooth because you guys fight, right?
Yeah.
So the argument is with a lot of traditional camps is they're very, very separate. And I agree they are, because, one's training and one's self-preservation. But the point is, when you guys fight, you can flip that switch easy, and just the content, the intent changes, right? So my question to you is, like, all your training, your combat sport training, do you think it's prepared you for a real life encounter? Does it help with a self-defense situation?
I definitely believe it can. I think there are many factors, like multiple opponents, weapons, slippery floors, but I think it's the best way you can prepare yourself. I don't think there's ever a way to fully prepare yourself for a street fight, but it's the best way it can prepare you. And I think as long as you're staying fit, healthy, sparring, and I'm not saying hard sparring, just sparring, that's already helping you react. Just to have those explosive muscles to kind of just react. Sparring is the most important thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I find combat sports, like, I have a hard time even putting names to things now, because I've been in it so long. Like I don't like separating combat sports from traditional martial arts. It's really martial art if you think about it, right? Yeah. You're moving around, you're trying to get a tactical advantage, and you're trying to have fun at the same time. You're learning, growing, taking ideas from everywhere, right? I mean, that's the moment you put a separation on things, that's when I find people get all crazy, right? Like I one of the biggest things at Karate Unity is it's the whole unity concept. Like I honestly believe, okay, that what you're doing, okay, combat sports, is the modern day expression of real martial arts, right? Because think about it, like MMA is such a wonderful thing. You've got like the best of many arts synthesized into striking, grappling, and conditioning, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, wouldn't you say MMA is a synthesis of, all these different martial arts together?
I agree. And I think for those who think of them as separate things, are people who just don't have enough knowledge in the game. I've spoken to a lot of guys about this, and it's really cool that you'd say the same. I'm getting confirmation from guys that are putting in the time, right? And they're saying the same song. You got to put in the time to realize that there's use everywhere, right? It's useful everywhere. Okay, so let's talk about attribute development. So you're fast, you're strong, you're sneaky, right? In your strategies. I want to know, what are some if you were to think about it, what would be your top go-to exercises to develop, these attributes, your fight attributes? I would say watching fights has been my biggest thing. Obviously learning from your coaches and listening is one of the most important things, but I think what kind of gave me a huge head start is just watching a lot of fights, and then not only watching fights and trying to copy what they do and apply it in my own sparring, but filming my sparring, watching myself spar and seeing what I could do better. Like that's I can't emphasize enough. That's the biggest thing that has helped me improve, by watching myself spar and
Yeah.
seeing when I got hit, when I do land, when I am successful. That's how I find I improve the most.
Yeah. Yeah. Studying, right?
Yeah,
Do you, when you watch yourself spar and stuff, like, do you like take notes or anything, or you just mentally take notes? Like, what's that
I
process?
take
So when you're
notes.
watching yourself, what do you do?
Well, whenever like I said, it's kind of like when I'm making a tutorial. Because when when I film a tutorial or create a tutorial, it's the same as I'm helping others, but it's also helping me. So that tutorial is also helping me, and it's a reminder for myself on how I should spar or think. And yeah, I watch myself, and when I get hit, actually no, I learn from watching other people beat me up as well, because I spar with my
Ah,
coaches all the time. And I'm going to name drop him again, but Fred Stonehouse. I have
yes.
I have copied, I've stolen so many techniques and combos from him,
Yep.
because he he's that good in my opinion. He can outclass me
Yep.
in a technical match. He can outclass me, and he'll land a specific technique or counter over and over again. And when I'm sparring, I don't know what he's doing, and then when I watch, I'm literally stunning him, and then I'm like trying to copy and practice
Copy
his
it.
moves,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
next thing
Yeah.
you know, I'm doing it on him. And yeah, I've just learned so much from just sparring him.
Have you ever taken stuff that he showed you and beat him with it?
You know what's funny? I'm actually going to release a video. Uh, I don't know when, maybe in the next 2 weeks or so.
Yep.
It's going to be I don't know what it's going to be called yet, but it's basically how Stephen Wonderboy throws his high kick, which is a
Ah.
jab, cross, step, side step, high kick.
Yep.
And Fred was teaching this in his class, and the next class was sparring. But anyways, I came a few minutes early, and I was watching him teaching. He was teaching that specific combo, and without even practicing or drilling it, actually, I just watched it, and I filmed him doing it, and I was just visualizing in my head. And then that same night we were sparring, and I landed the high kick on him.
Nice.
Yeah, you'll see the video. I'm gonna give him a shout out, but yeah,
Yeah. I can't wait. Yeah. That's if I can imagine it, it's like boom, boom, you step out and then you round kick. Is that what
so
you?
he throws a jab cross off center line.
Okay. Yeah.
Then he steps into southpaw as he throws a cross in southpaw,
Oh.
followed by
Okay.
the left high kick. So you're darting into the left, then you're darting into the right.
Yeah.
Into
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
left.
So you're messing the guy up. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find like those it's all simplistic strategy. It's like
Mhm.
left, right, left, up, down,
Yeah.
down, up. It's pretty much
Yes.
it, right? You're
Yeah.
playing opposites. Fight IQ. This is a shout out to one of my coaches. He wanted to ask you if this is a question from him.
Mhm.
What is fight IQ to you? And how do you develop it, and the transferability of fight IQ in self-defense?
Um, to answer that question, it's kind of the same to what I was talking about earlier. Just to be able to watch a fight and break down and understand why he did it and how he did it. That's in my opinion fight IQ. Whereas
Yeah.
a lot of regular people who watch UFC, they'll be making comments like, "Oh, he should have done this or he could have done that." Well, no, it's a lot harder than you think.
Yep.
If you're in that position, it's a lot harder, and to understand when and why they can or cannot do it, that just comes from experience from being in that position already.
Yes.
So like I remember, like I'll watch UFC with a bunch of my friends at their house, and I got like these two guys like the whole night just like talking, being like, what was he doing? He should have just sank the rear naked choke. Like, what is he thinking? Like, why is he in the UFC? And like, I'm not the type to like talk much or like comment, but I was explaining to him like it's a lot harder than you think when you're in that position. Like, it's hard to sink in the rear naked choke when they're defending properly.
Yeah.
And it just fight IQ comes from being in that position. So if
Experience.
you have been in that position where you're trying to choke someone else out and they're defending it, then you understand that it's a lot harder than you think.
And would you say that okay, so that's cool. How do you develop it then? I guess just from experience, just you keep doing
Drilling,
doing.
live drills, live
drilling.
drilling with no resistance is important to understand the mechanics of it and to just fully know the technique. But even if you fully know the technique, if you don't try it in sparring, it's not going to work. You need to try it with resistance, and you need to try it when they don't know what's coming. That's why, like, this is my process. I learn the technique, I visualize it, I rep it with no resistance, and then I go into my playground, aka sparring, and I try. Like, I'll always go into sparring with a list of techniques or combos that I'm trying to do. And sometimes I have too much, so I'll be like, okay, round one, I got 2 combos that I'm going to try to do. I literally try it over and over again, and like, I'll try this combo and it'll fail right then and there. And then like 10 seconds later in the same round, I'll try the same combo, and I'll keep trying it until I get it. And I'll try it on the next partner and the next partner. So sometimes you'll see my videos, I'll teach a technique, and then
I see that.
it's followed up with real-time sparring. And you'll see me landing or trying it with the same outfit in the same room, and you know what I mean, over and over again.
Yeah. I actually got inspiration from that. I want to try. So thank you for that. I want to try doing that style of filming where, because I do that all the time, but I just don't capture it that way. Like I like, you know, when I train with my guys, let's just say I love trapping. So I want to trap up the hand and get to the head, or trap up the hand and trap the other hand and go for strikes and things like that. And it works to some people. It works. Then I'd have to adapt it to others and this and that. But I miss all those opportunities because I don't of capturing it, because I don't film it. Right.
Yeah. So, and it's such a, like, it's kind of bad now, but like, sometimes when I'm not filming it, I'm like, what's the point? What's the point in sparring? It's just because I'm so used to getting those moments, and it's like a collection for me. You know, some people collect Pokemon cards and whatever. I collect cool sparring footage. I collect good exchanges and memorable exchanges, and I, you know, showcase it on my channel. You know, it's my little collection.
That's what makes you, man. It's personal, you know. It's personal. Talk about your TriStar experience, and your memorable coaches over there.
Memorable coach would be Faraz Zahabi. He's known as George St-Pierre's head coach.
Yes.
And he's just very methodical with his approach in coaching. Every time I join his jiu-jitsu class, the sequence of attacks and the way he chains up his jiu-jitsu it's extraordinary. And I loved every single class he had. And I really liked his approach to training. He's not the type to kind of, he doesn't push his students to 100 or 110%. He always pushes them to 80% so that they feel motivated to come back to train every day, which is what I was speaking about earlier. It's like, you train hard every day. Like, I remember when I was younger and training for amateur fights, I had a coach who kind of pushed me like a little too hard, and I would be like completely gassed out. Like, I'm done this session. And then he would ask me to do like 100 kicks each side. And like, it's just too much. And I remember I would end up like skipping some training sessions, and then, which I shouldn't be skipping training sessions because I'm kind of like scared to train now. And then I remember when he would hold pads for me, I would be like, first round, I would kind of like hit 50%. I wouldn't hit my hardest. And then he'd be like, harder. I'd be like, oh, but I'm tired. It's because in my head, I'm like trying to save energy for the last few rounds, you know, because I'm like that traumatized with the training. So with that said, with Faraz, it's like he pushes you to 80%, maybe sometimes 90%, or maybe 100% on your last day before you have a recovery day. But he pushes you so that you get better, but you still feel motivated to be back in every day. And it's better to train every day consistently than to train 3 times a week and completely burn yourself out and then take a week off to train.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. So your most exciting fight and any upcoming fights?
The most exciting fight I had was probably with my one championship debut, obviously, because I'm fighting for one championship. It's a really big organization. In terms of next fight, you know what? We're negotiating right now. We haven't come to an agreement yet, so it's pretty much unknown at this point. But with that said, I'm happy with what I do right now. You know, my main focus is the business and being a martial artist. Fighting, I really don't care about fighting. It's always been an opportunity that was presented to me, and I took it. And yeah, we'll see.
What's next for you in terms of like, what are you going to be doing to keep yourself busy?
Same thing. I'm really hoping that COVID dies down so that I can start hosting train and travel camp again.
Yeah.
I haven't, since COVID started, I haven't traveled. One of my favorite things to do is to train and travel and train at different gyms, cross training. I
Yes.
actually want to go to Japan and train karate there.
Nice.
I just want to go explore and train martial arts and vlog it and, you know,
Yeah.
showcase other gyms. That's one of the best things. But obviously, I think Asia's kind of shut down right now, and there might be a fourth
Yeah.
wave, and it's just who knows.
If you come to Toronto, man, let's stay in touch. You can come and
For
train with
sure,
me.
for
I'd
sure.
love to bring a bunch of guys together. It'll be fun, man.
I definitely will. And
Yeah.
I have friends in Toronto. I used to live in Toronto, and my fiance lives in Burlington. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
very well possible. I will stay in touch. I will give you a follow on Instagram. And yeah.
Thank you.